Now some dealers are shifting their focus to customer retention.
If there are fewer sales today, could that lead to fewer vehicles in the service lane in the future, just on numbers? And so I think that's where some of the experts are raising that as a potential concern, and even more importance now on needing to focus on that retention piece.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Parts Talk. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Now today we're going to be reacting to another article by Automotive News, and it says dealerships service business is strong but not without challenges. Dealership service and parts businesses are doing well as customers hold on to older vehicles longer, but issues exist, including mechanic shortages and part supply. So in this feature, they are going to be looking at the future of parts and service in dealerships in North America, of course, because this is not happening well. Start over. I'm going to say something else. We're going to be looking at a feature video they have here, and it's entitled The Future of Parts and Service. In this video, they are going to be looking at the future of parts and service in dealerships. However, this is not a major concern in dealerships outside of North America, and I will be explaining as we go along in this video. So sit back, enjoy, and let us go through and analyze this as we go along.
In revenue, there's growth in profits, and a big part of that is the fact that, it's hard to find a new vehicle right now.
That's our Automotive News retail reporter, Lindsay Van Hully, talking about how it's hard to find a vehicle due to an ongoing inventory shortage. As a result, customers are holding on to their vehicles longer. According to data from NADA, across the industry, franchise dealerships service and parts sales are increasing and even exceed levels seen in 2019 before the pandemic.
Now, let me pause a little bit right there because, again, outside of North America, you have dealerships that thrive. Outside of North America, you have dealerships that thrive on parts and service. Their absorption rate is almost 100% because they know what it takes in order to keep they know what it takes to keep the lights on in those dealerships, and they're being run like a well-oiled machine. Now, outside of the United States and Canada, here is that people tend to keep their vehicles longer because the cost of a vehicle is far more expensive than it is here in the north. However, dealerships make it their priority in order to keep on increasing their customer retention rate, and you'll hear a lot of that as we go along.
The potential is there for more business. The consumer demand is still good. If some dealerships had the additional capacity, they'd be able to go and increase that even more.
Cox Automotive's chief economist says as consumer demand continues to rise, dealers are facing constraints, and says it's the supply side that's limiting their potential. Some dealers are now investing to boost capacity, train employees, and add technology in their service departments to keep up with customer demand. Dealers are now leaning on their service departments as a source of profits.
Times are good, and dealers have noted that their parts and service businesses right now are doing well, but it's not without challenges.
Dealers are faced with many challenges. Some are concerned about the long-term effects of electrification and over-the-air software repairs.
This is not a challenge for dealerships that have the experience, that have the leaders who understand the know-how of running a service department, running a parts department, and running an overall dealership at best. No, you have to take in consideration some of the things that are needed in terms of a sales analyst, and you have to also look at the external conditions that will affect the dealership or garage that they're in charge of. However, they all understand this outside of this hemisphere. All right, let's continue.
Repairs that don't require a customer to bring their vehicle to a dealership for service. Another big challenge, finding technicians and issues with parts being available. Now some dealers are shifting their focus to customer retention.
If there are fewer sales today, could that lead to fewer vehicles in the service lane in the future, just on numbers? And so I think that's where some of the experts are raising that as a potential concern, and even more importance now on needing to focus on that retention piece.
With
If ever they understood what the retention rate was, they wouldn't be panicking. They wouldn't be trying to understand what it's all about. And I'm telling you personally, this is based on the lack of experience of those leaders leading these dealerships. For those who want to understand exactly what she's talking about, this is a definition of the service rate. It is a number of customer paid units serviced divided by the UIO times 100, and the UIO stands for units in operations. It means the total number of cars out there already running around by paying customers who you want to come back to the dealerships in order to maintain those cars and retain those customers with the best customer service possible. And the retention rate is a useful indicator to check for irregularity when comparing with past results. It is also effective to obtain an average among dealers or countries to compare with the indicated figure. They use it interchangeably depending on where you are in the world. And also you want to utilize that retention rate to tap into and increase your service market share, which of course you want a larger piece of the pie. Let's continue.
The potential for fewer future sales, dealerships need to focus on customer retention, adding capacity, and shrinking appointment backlogs. Our reporter Lindsay spoke with dealers. They say that if they're able to get customers in and improve their experience with the process, customers will be more likely to come back in for service and potential future sales down the line. But as fewer vehicles get sold, there will be fewer vehicles that need service.
Some of those trends do have some dealers concerned longer term about what that's going to mean. But I've talked to some dealers as well that see opportunity there.
When it comes to dealerships and service department relationships, it's hard to say what will happen in the long term. But one thing is for certain, service departments are doing well and will continue to do well in the near term.
It's an area where, that has been important and will continue to be important to dealerships going forward.
There is an ongoing shortage of mechanics, and this is self-explanatory. One of the reasons is that they're not putting the information out there to motivate the younger generation, who personally I think they don't want to get their hands dirty, right? And another thing is they're not explaining the potential that is there to become a mechanic. You can branch off into so many other different things while being a mechanic with the vast amount of experience you'll be gaining, along with watching the technology evolve before your very eyes. A lot of mechanics also go on to owning their own shops, becoming mobile mechanics, being serial entrepreneurs, and getting the great experiences while employing others and training them as well. I'm going to make the point as simple as possible. If you concentrate on the absorption rate, then selling a vehicle will just be bonus, and you'll be relying on parts and service in order to carry the business through. A lot of private shops, they only rely on parts and service, and they're existing as time goes by. You have examples of these right across the country: the Meinekes, the Napa, the Quick Lubes. All these are shops that have franchises, and they're doing quite well. I fail to understand how a lot of the dealerships who rely heavily on vehicle sales to carry them through always seems to be struggling whenever there's a downturn in an economy. I find it rather surprising that a lot of dealerships here struggle whenever there is a downturn in the economy, while countries outside of North America seems to thrive on what it takes in order to run the dealerships. And it boils down to, again, the lack of experience. Exposure is very important, and that's why I encourage benchmarking and best practices to see exactly what is going on outside of the Western Hemisphere in order to look at what the processes are and then bring some of them, customize it to suit what you're going through. With the emergence of electric vehicles coming in right now, training your staff, especially the parts and service department, will be paramount in this situation, because prices will not be going down anytime soon. And this story is nothing new to us, and this is an ongoing cycle. Whenever we see a financial meltdown, a downturn in the economy, a natural disaster, or something else that comes along, the automotive industry is always affected first, and they go through the phases, and the cycle continues time and time again. It always breaks my heart to see dealers catching up and not having a defensive mechanism in place. But then again, you had some dealers who were doing extremely well during the pandemic because they understood what was needed at the time, because they were prepared. So let's start the conversation below. Remember to grab a copy of my ebook, The Parts Manager Guide. Please smash that like button on your way out. It will only take you 1.5 seconds to do so. Until next time.